Welcome, everybody. It is Club Dynasty on this Thursday night on the eve of Week 7. We are taking you right up to the start of Broncos and Browns. Great show. Love this as always. Love having Zach on with me. Zach, my co-host, Dynasty writer with our site, Club Fantasy. And with us this week, first-time guest on our network of Club Fantasy shows, it is Shane Barrett, co-founder of the FF Kollectiv and host of the Fantasy Nightcap podcast. Shane, how we doing tonight, brother?
Man, I am doing great. It is Zach messaged me yesterday. He was like, "Hey, can you join?" And I was like, "Let me talk to the wife." And she said, "Yeah." And I was like, "Zach, we just got to be done by the Browns game." And here we are.
I mean, that's usually what I tell Zach anyway. So when we start coming up on time, I'm like, all right, dude, shut the fuck up. Let's get going. People are trying to watch other stuff that's more important. So
yeah,
we get chatty.
You know what? It happens, though. And that's what makes a great podcast. It's all about being entertaining, being chatty, and being informative. And speaking of informative, have we got a great show for everyone tonight? I am excited because we're talking running backs, because all the elite guys are struggling with injuries or something else for the matter. We're going to talk a little bit about some of their replacements. We're going to talk the Denver Broncos wide receivers, because there's a couple young studs that are killing it right now, and one of them's getting ready to come back from injury. And, of course, my personal favorite, Bateman returns. But first, we're going to start with the elite running backs and the injury concerns. So I listed out 3 guys, because right now we're all seeing how absolutely amazing Derrick Henry is doing. And he has been consistently doubted by everybody in the Dynasty community now for I don't know how many years, because it's, well, he doesn't catch passes. Well, he can't continually keep up this quite heavy workload. Well, right now he's on pace for more carries, more yards, and more touchdowns than what he had last year. And I'm fairly certain he's already topped his career high in receptions and targets and yards and all that good stuff too. So we're on the historic pattern here for Derrick Henry. But when you look at some of the consensus RBs that were really heading in at that top echelon this year, talking about guys like Christian McCaffrey, guys like Dalvin Cook, Saquon Barkley, all of them have had injury concerns heading into this year and are now all hurt. So I'm going to start with the youngest of the 3, and that's Saquon Barkley. He'll be 25 at the start of next season. He's already missed 1 game this year, likely to miss another one. Missed 3 games back in 2019 before tearing his ACL after 2 games in 2020. So Shane, I'm going to start with you. Let's kind of talk about where you sort of value Barkley in this echelon of running backs, and you can include guys like DeAndre Swift and Jonathan Taylor, even Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Antonio Brown, or Gibson, you know, these guys that obviously have high ceilings, but we're talking about the elite guys that have already shown what they can bring to the table and have done it over several years. Where are we valuing Barkley now, and what can we expect over the next couple of years?
Man, that's a great question. Valuing him now, I still have him probably like easily top 10, I think. But the way I view it is, if you're a contending team and you've got him, and I think this really kind of goes with all 3 of these guys that we're going to talk about. If you're a contending team and you've got him, you're starting to get frustrated because you've continually you paid up that high price for him, probably in your startup draft, or paid a high price to go and acquire him via trade, and then haven't gotten any of the value returned from that. So you're probably still wanting him. And the thing that I think I value him from a dynasty perspective, maybe just slightly above these guys, is the 1 year younger than CMC and the 1 year younger than Cook, that I think he's got a longer future. He's just got to actually get and stay healthy, which we haven't seen in a couple years. So I'm starting to get a little iffy on that.
Zach?
The reason I would probably value Barkley more out of the 3, just because of his backup strength. So Dalvin Cook has Alexander Mattison.
Yep.
CMC has Chuba Hubbard. Both of them have shown that they can take that role. And now Devontae Booker has not done terrible, but which one of those 3 do you think would be able to hold his own starting role on a team? Like if the other two if all three of them got traded today, who would you have more confidence would not be replaced? And so that is Booker for me. And so that puts a little more value for me in Saquon. I think that he just has to get past he's been very unlucky. But that might play into his hand later, that he's not getting the usage, he's not wearing down his body. He's had the injuries, yes, but once he overcomes them, I think that he's going to start rolling. We saw it with Dalvin Cook himself, but now he's starting to get those injuries again. Dalvin Cook started out really unlucky, started getting a lot of injuries, and he took off. I think that if we give Barkley a little bit more time, let his team come around a little bit more, that team is it's a crapshoot right now. It's not.
You can say show. It's okay. We don't like the Giants here.
The Giants are a shit show right now. Daniel Jones is starting to show flashes of becoming better, but that offensive line is still a crapshoot. The wide receivers, none of them can stay healthy. They wasted money on Kenny Golladay.
Yeah, they did.
they just have to. I don't know. They have to find their identity, but I think their identity is behind a healthy Saquon Barkley. If they wait just a little bit more, I think that's why I think he has more dynasty value. I've already sold Dalvin Cook in a lot of my leagues. I'm planning on shipping off CMC the same way, just because they still hold that value. They still hold that name value right now. If they do this again next year, they're not going to hold that same value. They're not going to hold a multiple first value or a first and a rising rookie. So last year I shipped off Dalvin Cook for Stephon Diggs and a first and a second. That was perfect for me. That I enjoyed that deal. Diggs is going to have a longer career than Cooks, plus I get more draft capital behind it. Those are the kind of deals I'm looking for with these guys. But if I'm looking to keep one of them, it's Barkley.
Yeah, I agree with that completely.
So how much now, Zach, you mentioned the Giants being a shit show, and obviously you and I are both Eagles fans, so we hold no love lost to them.
Well, we're a shit show too.
Oh, why did you guys have me on the show?
Sorry, Shane.
I'm not a Giants fan. I'm a Cowboys fan.
All right, time to kick you off. This show ended early. No, I'm just kidding.
Let's cut it.
Yeah, right. I mean, you mentioned them being a shit show and that offensive line being so bad. It's very rare that we see these types of quick turnarounds with bad offensive lines. Mm-hmm. And if the Giants are unable to do that, what makes you think that Barkley really is going to hold that type of value? Like, everybody talks about he has all these generational talents and traits, etc. To me, the biggest trait that he has is losing 2 yards on a carry because he can't find a hole because he wants to dance all the time for the big play. Right. So where does that come into play when you're thinking about, I understand, with Dynasty, we're always talking about talent, but situation does matter as well. So right. Shane, I'll start with you. If they don't improve this line, how much is that going to continue to tank his stock?
That's another great question. Honestly, there's you kind of mentioned it, and I think part of this maybe just be with him because if you think about it, with the games that he's missed, he's still relatively young from a playing in the NFL from an experience level standpoint. So there may still be things that he has to learn, like quit dancing
falling
with the ball
forward.
And just get, yeah, exactly. Just get north and south, fall forward, keep your feet moving, all the stuff that you probably learn when you're in Pee Wee football. But sometimes guys like that who are so talented and can make those big plays are always trying to make those big plays. So maybe one of the things that he's going to have to learn if the offensive line doesn't improve is to take what he can get. If he can get 3 yards, take it instead of continually trying to break that, which I think would be something that I would hope he would do. And if he can do that and learn how to do that, then if the offensive line doesn't get better, I think he'll be fine. If it doesn't, then I could see his stock tanking a little bit, but because of his ability to break that big run and just break tackles in general, I think it shouldn't be dinged too bad because we have seen players with horrible offensive lines still finished in the top 10 in fantasy running backs over the last few years. David Montgomery, I think, was one of them. I think last year the Bears were 16th or worse, and he ended up finishing as RB4. Now, also his end of season schedule was cake, but still, if you look at that, there are multiple cases where bottom 16 offensive line, top 10 fantasy running back.
Zach?
So what I would say with him is if they don't add another piece, because if I'm wrong, I may be. I was trying to look it up. Is Kevin Zeitler hurt? He's hurt, right? He's out for the year.
I thought they moved on from him.
Or did they?
He's in Baltimore.
Move on from him? He's gone.
Yeah, he signed a 3-year deal with Baltimore.
So if they don't add, they need to add one or two more pieces behind so they can, because Andrew Thomas isn't anything right now. He's strangely enough, he's actually been their best pass blocking lineman. He's been their best one, but he's not like where they want him to be, but he could be next year. So if they add one or two pieces behind him, then I'm okay with that because they have some pretty good draft capital next year. And they have
2 first-round picks.
Yeah, they have the ability to add onto their offensive line, and they also have the ability to add in free agency. If they don't, if they ignore it again, and it could happen because it's the Giants, and they giant all over the place. I would move on from him. I would ship him off or whatever. I find the Giants fan in my league. Find somebody that's a Barkley truther that thinks he's generational and whatever, and then ship him because he's going to be what he is now. I mean, if David Montgomery can learn to not dance, then Saquon Barkley can learn to not dance because that was his biggest issue with me. He would ignore the hole. He would make too many decisions back there, and then he would lose negative 2 yards like Barkley's doing. Now, Barkley's been in the league longer than Montgomery, and Montgomery's learned it faster, but also Montgomery's had better health and has been on the field.
That was kind of my point in the beginning.
Yeah. He's had more experience like behind a worse I would say that the Bears offensive line is better. It's not that much better. It's not great, but it's not terrible. But it's the most average offensive line you could have. Yeah. And David Montgomery learned how to play behind that. If David can do that, Saquon can do it too. I also think with their lack of wide receivers, if they just focus on the offensive line, that's even better because then he's going to get all the targets, going to get all the rushing attempts. And if you have him and you're a contending team, you're going to love it when he's finally healthy. But you just have to hope. There's a lot of hopes, a lot of like reaching.
A lot of what ifs. Yeah,
a lot of what ifs.
A lot of what ifs with Barkley. I'll say this before I get your guys' opinion, just like a real quick, if you had to sell him today, what would be the lowest price that you would take for him? But the thing with what you mentioned, Montgomery learning how to dance, the biggest difference to me, Montgomery's a 4.6 40 guy. Mm-hmm. Saquon's a 4.3 guy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's not going to learn to fall forward because in his mind, he's faster and bigger than everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And that is going to take a completely different mental turn. Montgomery's whole thing was, I can dance because I can break every freaking tackle.
Right.
Saquon's is, well, I can run faster than everybody. And that's the problem you see with a lot of these college kids that come to the NFL. They're so used to being faster than everybody. The NFL, everybody's fast, unless you're Dearness Johnson on the Browns. Another story for another day. Real quick, Shane. Barkley, if you have him, what's the lowest value you're willing to trade him for at this second?
1 QB league.
We'll say, we'll do this. We'll do 1 QB and then we'll do Superflex. So 1 QB is soon PPR.
1 QB PPR. I think 2 firsts. Probably the lowest I'd be willing to accept. And one of those would probably have to be early.
Okay. Zach?
I would do 2 firsts, but one would be this year and one could be the following year.
23.
So I would do a 1 2022 and a 1 2023.
Okay.
That'd
Any
be
players involved or simply just picks?
No, I would do just picks in that case. If I had to do players, I would want someone young. I would want someone Probably my ideal deal that I would want to do is Rashad Bateman, a first and a second.
Okay.
I'd take that all day.
I can see that. All right, so I'm going to lump Christian McCaffrey and Dalvin Cook kind of in the same category because when we talk about workhorse running backs, these are guys that are playing 80 to 90+% of their team's rushing snaps from the position. So McCaffrey is going to be 26 at the start of next year. We know all about it, the games he missed last year, 13. He's already missed 3 this year. They just put him on IR. He's going to miss at least a minimum of 3 more. So now you're talking about a guy that's missed more than half of each of the last 2 seasons. Cook has never played more than 14 games in any season. He's played 14 in back-to-back. He's already missed 2 games here in 2021. He's going to be a year older. He's going to be 27 next year. What are we looking at in terms of these two going forward? Because these are 2 guys that actually have pretty solid backup running backs, but they also signed extensions with their teams, which we talk all the time in the Dynasty community that these are the types of running backs you want. When they sign that extension, that's it. Like, let's move forward. We're winning with these guys. So, Shane, I'll start with you. How are we looking at CMC and Cook going forward? Do you favor one over the other? Which one would you be more willing to trade?
I would be more willing to trade Cook because he's older, but also because right now he's been more healthy, which is weird because I've always been a Dalvin Cook hater because he does always get hurt. But I would definitely be more willing to trade Cook. I believe in the talent of CMC more than Cook too. It's like I've got CMC in my home league, auction league, I think it's 10-team Superflex league, and it's killing me. I think I'm 1-5 because I hadn't had CMC all year. And then my other guys have just underperformed week to week. Like I haven't had one week where everybody's hit like I needed them to. And so yeah, it's been really frustrating having CMC, but I don't he's one of those guys that when he's on the field, that's a guaranteed 20 points almost. Every
hell, at this point, it's a guaranteed 30.
Yeah. So man, yeah, I would trade Cook before I would trade CMC just because I believe in the talent of CMC way more than I do of Cook. I think you might get a better return on Cook right now because CMC's injuries. But I'm CMC all the way.
Zach.
Well, I actually disagree, which is good because I was hoping.
Yay! I like disagreements.
Disagree on something. No, so Cook is a hold for me. CMC is I'm jumping ship. 100% I'm jumping ship because I don't think people care about his injuries right now, which even though it's been 2 years, and even though it's been a bother, there's still teams waiting. Like Shane said, his team is like 1-5. There's teams waiting for him to come back. There's teams waiting for him to drop those 25 pointers and the 27 pointers. And I have no doubt that he's going to do that when he gets back. I really don't. But because if you look at when Mike Davis weeks 1 through, I think it was weeks 3 through 8 last year, Mike Davis balled when he got the opportunity to when CMC was out. When CMC came back, it was like Mike Davis didn't even exist anymore. CMC he got touches, which I think the same is going to happen with Chuba, but he's not going to interfere with CMC. But you got to wonder, it's been 2 years now, and it could be the same with Barkley. He could get over these injury woes, but you saw his usage. He can't keep doing that and not expect to be hurt. He can't, with his body type and his weight, he can't keep bouncing in between the tackles. He can't keep getting hit. He can't keep getting 25, 30 touches a game and not expect to find something that comes up. So I'm jumping on the value now. He's 26. He's 26, right? He's 26, 27.
Well, he's currently 25. He'll be 26 next year.
Perfect time right now. He has the name value. People do not care that he's been hurt. I'm jumping now. Cook, I'm holding but I'm holding more if I have Mattison. I might be trading more for Mattison on the low if I have Cook, because they're interchangeable at this point. Not that their talent is the same. Cook is much better, but the way they use Mattison and the way that you've seen him be used this year, he is a perfect plug and play if you lose Cook. So if I have Mattison, I'm more willing to hold Cook. I'm not opposed to selling Cook off if I'm getting offered like a good trade, like I just mentioned, Diggs a first and a second. But
so let me ask you this: if you've got CMC like I do in that league, what are you willing to trade him for? Because it's auction, so I can't get picks back.
You can't get picks back. Auction's rough. Honestly, I'd be a little risky. I know that ETN's coming back next year, but James Robinson's slaying it right now.
I've already got James Robinson.
We can't help you, Shane.
I can't help you, Shane. Your team is too good. I would
for 1 and 5, you would think
someone that's balling out that no, I'm not saying trade him for a QB, but I would look for someone that has value every year, that performs every year, like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins performs every year. He's forgotten about every year.
Yep.
Derrick Henry was forgotten about for a little bit, and then we were like, oh, yeah, he's really good. I forgot about that. He's just going to run for 3,000 yards every time.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So I would shoot for someone that people forget about. And I don't know, man. Kind of shot me down with the James Robinson thing. Nick Chubb.
What about Amari? Nick Chubb?
Yeah.
What about Chubb and Amari?
Huh?
Is that too pricey, you think?
I don't think that's too pricey.
What is it?
Chubb and Amari?
For
CMC.
I'd take that.
Okay. Would you throw on?
You're getting a top 15 wide receiver that has upside. So
because I know that Chubb's is having his injury woes and everything, and people are like, "Oh, Hunt's taking stuff from him," but he still gets his attempts. He's still the second best rusher in the league. I don't care what anyone says. Derrick Henry's one, which is fine, but Nick Chubb is the second best rusher in the league. Argue with me, at me on Twitter, comment below. I don't care.
I'm just gonna at you on Twitter and say I love you because you're right.
So I'm gonna pose this one because I actually I took over an Orphan Dynasty team a couple weeks ago, and I'm looking at all these pieces and I'm like, all right, yeah, this just isn't gonna work. I'm just gonna blow this thing up. And I've got Dalvin Cook, but I also have a lot of really young assets. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna deal Cook. Let's see what I can get. I ended up dealing Cook with Mattison, mind you, because he was pretty adamant on getting Mattison back. But I got Javonte Williams, Zach Moss, a first and a third.
1 QB?
Yeah. No, it's actually super flex.
That helps.
Yeah, it's actually super flex. And my 2 quarterbacks in that league are Russell Wilson, who's now hurt, and Jared Goff. So that's why I was really adamant on getting a running back in return. So then I could use that first to potentially get a quarterback.
Well, you can use both of them, and Javonte Williams is going to have a lot more value next year because I think that he's going to he's doing great now with the touches he's getting. So you can only expect him
Zach,
all right.
Don't talk about that later.
My bad. Never mind. He sucks.
All right, so real quick, we'll hit on the backups. We mentioned Chuba Hubbard. We mentioned Alexander Mattison. First off, which of these two, if season-ending injuries occurred, if the team's finally decided, all right, going to move on, we like our young guy, which one do you think would be in a better position and have more value? Chuba Hubbard on the Panthers or Alexander Mattison with the Vikings?
I personally want Chuba. I think Chuba's the better athlete. I don't know if he's the better running back, but he's definitely the better athlete, and he's a rookie, so he's going to have more long-term value, I think. Mattison, I think, is also around 25 or 26, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was
24,
an older
25.
He was a senior, I think, when he came in the league.
Yeah, I think he's 24, 25, 26, something like that. So, and I think he's in year 3 or 4. So just from that standpoint, I want Chuba. We've seen both of them fill in, I think, to clearly not the same level as their predecessor. Mattison has been closer to that, but again, he's also been in the league longer. So I think as Chuba kind of gets more touches and gets acquainted to the speed of the NFL, I want Chuba for sure.
I 100% agree. It's Chuba for me too.
Okay. I thought you were going to go Mattison.
No, I like Mattison if I have Cook. See, it's there. That's the reason the guy he traded with wanted Mattison as well. They're starting to be connected in value to me. They're starting to be like, if I want one, I have the other. It's the same thing with Zeke and Tony Pollard. If I want one, I want the other. Because it's very rare that you have a backup situation to where someone's going to take over and get the touches. It's not the days of the Steelers where Williams would take over and would just ball out when Bell was hurt. And it would just be like, oh, that's just, the backup. That doesn't happen all the time anymore. Is the running back talented enough to take those touches and do something with them? Those are the guys that are. Chuba is, and while I saw Chuba live at the Panthers-Eagles game, and the way that they were using him, the most successful way that they used him is when he was doing the end around where he was going out on the outside. He would do okay going up the middle, but that was better with Sam Darnold. When Sam Darnold wanted to do that, he would just do whatever he wanted to do. But when Chuba would go on the outside, we couldn't stop him.
Because he's got the speed.
Could not stop him.
You get him on those end arounds, and
he's got legitimate world-class track speed. And I think to your point, Zach, the reason that he probably didn't succeed as well up the middle is because he is so damn fast that it limits his vision. The one knock I had about him when evaluating him coming out was his vision, and it was because he would he's so fast he'd overrun the hole that was there, or get somewhere and not see the hole because he was too fast.
Exactly.
So, yeah,
and they're using him the correct way. The Panthers are using him the correct way, and Shane's exactly right. He just needs this is his rookie year, and he's already getting accustomed to the NFL. I love Chuba. He's one of my buys. I don't know how I'm going to get him right now. I need CMC to come back and ball out a little bit more. Maybe have a couple I need CMC to come back so I can swoop in and get Chuba, but right now I can't get him. I would wait to get him, but I would definitely want to get him. Mattison,
I got him off of waivers in that home league that I'm in.
That's ridiculous.
That's someone
right?
Technically, yeah.
Oh, is it
keeper.
Keeper?
It's keeper. Yeah.
Man, I want to do a keeper. I've never done a keeper.
Really? Keeper leagues are fun. It's a nice bridge to kind of introduce people to like a dynasty aspect from a redraft. So, but it's not like full on deep dive into dynasty to steal the article heading from our man Drew.
Well,
which actually is a great segue. Go ahead, Shane. Sorry.
I was gonna say the thing that was weird is I think someone picked up Chuba and then dropped him. So I went and picked him up. I saw him. I was like, gimme, because I have CMC sitting on IR.
I love home leagues.
Man, crazy. All right. So as I started to mention, our latest Dive into Dynasty article from our man Drew, he was our guest on our first Club Dynasty show this year. One of the points that he talked about was the imminent return of one Jerry Jeudy. And I think this is a good topic, seeing as how the Broncos play in about 20 minutes. And Jeudy getting ready to come off IR. We've seen how well Courtland Sutton's been playing. Right now, he's, according to RotoViz, leading the league, actually, in intended air yards per game. And I believe is fifth in realized or actual air yards per game. We know the type of talent that Noah Fant has, the type of athleticism, especially when it correlates to the tight end position. We've seen Tim Patrick hang around and do well filling in. So I'll start with you, Shane, because I of course I see your notes here and I vehemently disagree on this order. But I need you to tell me here, what's your pecking order? Like when Jerry Jeudy comes back, is Courtland Sutton just gonna fade, or is he gonna kind of keep being the guy there and Jerry Jeudy being more of the complement? How do you see this playing out, Shane?
Yeah, so just so you don't kill me, I do want to add some context to my pecking
I
order.
have my cursor right over the remove from. No, I'm just kidding.
So my pecking order is Jeudy, Sutton, Fant, and Patrick. But the way that I see that is Jeudy and Sutton very close to each other. It's more of 1A and 1B, which isn't. I don't know if this is the offense that you want a 1A and 1B in, just because, Teddy Two Gloves ain't no superstar, but he gets the job done in fantasy. He supported 3 wide receiver threes last year. So I see it as 1A, 1B, and then a small gap to where it's Fant, and then really the person that's going to get hurt the most by Jeudy coming back is Tim Patrick. So that's kind of how I see it, is Jeudy and Sutton really, really close, with Jeudy just above Sutton. Then it's a small gap in Fant, and then it's a larger gap in Patrick.
Zach.
Well, I was expecting it to be way worse than that. That's not too bad. I disagree with the top. Obviously, I'm a Sutton guy. I think he's the alpha of the offense.
Eagles fans stick together, baby.
I think he's going to get the majority of the targets, but it's going to be I think it'll be like a Seattle thing, like a DK Metcalf and a Tyler thing, where they're right there, but it'll just be edged out by Sutton one year, or it'll be off by 5 targets another year. It's not going to be one dominant person, but Sutton's going to get the majority of, I think, the red zone looks. I think Sutton's going to get the majority of the contested catches. Judy's going to have his big plays.
Well, all of Sutton's catches are contested catches because he can't separate.
Fair.
But as long as he comes down with them, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. In your face, Shane. No, but Fant also Patrick is absolutely the one that's going to suffer from all this. Fant's going to be a close third, but that's been always my biggest problem with Fant, is I don't dislike Noah Fant. I love Noah Fant. I don't think Fant's going to be. So my ideal situation for Fant, which is it's a reach, but if we can come back to this episode in a couple of years and be like, oh shit, he was right, that'd be cool. But I think that he stays the third
on YouTube, baby.
I'm cool with it. He plays the third fiddle for a couple years in Denver for a few years more, and then Travis Kelce retires. Fant goes to the Chiefs. I'd be cool with that.
I like that.
That's where the talent matches up with how long he's been in the league. It matches up with how good he is now. He will eat. He will feast in that section. I don't know how long Kelce's going to be in the league. I know he's going to be there probably about 3 more years. Good, 3 or 4 more years. It's Travis Kelce. He's probably going to grunk it. So let's not be crazy. But will they be able to afford him down the road because of Patrick Mahomes' crazy freaking contract that lasts for 50 years? I don't know. There's a lot of what ifs. I'm just saying I would love to see him in a better offense. I would love to see him somewhere where he can thrive as the number 2 or number 1 instead of the number 3, which is what he's going to be when Jerry Jeudy gets back. He's always going to be he's going to be a bridesmaid, never the bride. He's going to be a top 5 tight end, but never a top 2 or 1.
Well, and that's the thing with tight ends is if you're literally not the 1A or 1B option, you're not going to be the tight end 1 in fantasy. It's just not how it is. And that's why we love Kelce. That's why we love Waller. And for a time, that's why we loved Kittle. And that's why everybody's starting to come around on Mark Andrews and TJ Hawkinson kind of falling into that wavelength as well. So, look, the Broncos traded back in the first round and took Noah Fant. I don't think you're just going to say, all right, I'm going to have this guy for 5 years and then move on. They have a lot of legitimate young pieces on this offense. Mm-hmm. And Sutton is going to be the first one that comes up for a contract because this is his 4th year in the league.
Yeah, this is his contract year. And Patrick is on his 4th 1-year deal in a row.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, look, but Patrick's not going to cost a lot of money to keep.
No.
Sutton will.
Yeah.
And right now, the Broncos sit at the most projected cap space heading into 2022.
So they could pay him.
So not only can they pay Sutton, but they have enough pieces to re-sign some of their key defensive players.
Or
but then also get a huge upgrade at quarterback, Aaron Rodgers. And then you're going to set up the same way they did with.
You don't like Aaron Rodgers?
No, I don't know if you know this about me, Zach, but I have 3 favorite teams.
Oh God.
Oh, so you're Browns. One of those guys. Okay.
Oh,
yes. Continue. The Browns, the Packers, and the Cowboys. So the figure was because
teams?
Okay, hold on. I've explained this before, but I'll do it quick. Mom's family is from Kenosha, Wisconsin, Green Bay Packers. Dad was born in Dallas. My grandfather worked in Dallas as an FBI agent, Dallas Cowboys. I'm a huge Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham Jr. fan. There's the Browns.
Real quick, and then we'll move on because I want to talk about Rashad Bateman. Gun to your head, pick one of the 3.
Fuck.
Haha.
The gun's already gone off about 4 times, Shane. No wonder you haven't responded yet.
I'll go Cowboys.
That's fair.
Just because that's the team my dad cheers for.
That's how I'm an Eagles fan, so I appreciate it.
That's too funny.
Let's talk about my boo.
All right, so let's get into Rashad Bateman, and we'll end on a few final thoughts from you guys. I'm a huge Rashad Bateman fan. Zach, I know that you're also a huge Rashad Bateman fan. Shane, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're also a huge Rashad Bateman fan.
Yes, accurate.
We saw him come back. Wasn't the greatest NFL debut, but it was definitely encouraging.
Wasn't the worst.
It definitely wasn't the worst, but again, 4 for 29, not great. But the one thing we do like was the target share. 6 targets, tied for the team lead. They didn't really have to throw the football as much, though. The Chargers just forgot how to play offense last week. But we've seen Lamar Jackson.
Period.
Yeah. Lamar Jackson is throwing the football this year. And I know part of it is out of necessity because they're trotting back your grandfather's favorite running backs in a rotation this year. And
I'm playing running back for the Ravens right now.
Yeah, right. And so obviously that's going to open up a lot of opportunities for Bateman. What it really boils down to, and I found this very interesting the other morning on Good Morning Football when I believe it was Chris Carter that was talking about this. Rashad Bateman is a true alpha in this offense. Like, he is the guy that can be that number one. And he literally said, no disrespect to Hollywood, but you ain't it, brother. And again, we've seen how great Hollywood Brown has played. You know, finishing last year, I believe he was averaging over 17 PPR fantasy points per game the last 5 weeks. He's shot out of cannon over the first 5-6 weeks this year. He's been a top 5, top 10 wide receiver in fantasy. He took a big step back last week. Where do we see, first off, the trajectory that is Bateman's rookie year? And where do we see Hollywood fitting in with that, on top of continuing to keep Mark Andrews involved here, Shane? Blast off, baby.
That is Rashad Bateman. I have been saying this since he was drafted. Rashad Bateman is exactly what Lamar Jackson needed because, like you said, Josh, he is an alpha. I've equated them drafting Rashad Bateman to the Bills trading for Stephon Diggs. It's not the same. I'm not saying Bateman is Diggs yet, but the type of game that they're going to play and the fact that Bateman's going to be a better route runner and separator and be able to operate over the middle and always be open is going to be humongous for Lamar Jackson and Hollywood Brown, I think. Because teams aren't going to be able to just focus on the deep threat or just focus on Andrews and Brown. Now they have to focus on Bateman. So Bateman, the target share is going to stay the same. I think he's going to continually be top of the food chain in that offense, competing with Andrews and Brown every single week for the top target share. No question in my mind. The production I can see him having, just from a volume standpoint, I think could have him ending up finishing as a wide receiver 3, which means he's going to have to score a lot of points because he missed the first 6 games or first 5 games. But I think he can do it just simply off of volume and how talented he is and the way that offense has been moving the ball. Like, there's so many good things that offense has that Bateman's going to just skyrocket.
Zach. Well, I'm glad we disagreed earlier because I agree with them again. The thing is, now the Ravens offense has their piece that they were missing. They tried to add it with Sammy Watkins. He's not going to.
I'd argue they're still missing a running back at this point too, but that's another story for another day.
Well,
that's just for this season. J.K. Dobbins will be back next year. They'll be fine.
I was going to say they had it. They had it with J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards. Both of them, either one of them would have been fine. That's going to be a combo. Hated to do that finger motion. Didn't mean to do that. But Bateman.
I love doing shows live. At least your kids are close to being in bed, right, Shane?
They're upstairs.
All right.
They're upstairs watching Disney Plus, so they didn't have to see that.
Everyone, shut up! No. Oh. So Bateman tied. He was second most in snaps among wide receivers for the Ravens. He was tied for He was tied for targets with Mark Andrews. And this is all coming off his first game off of injury. That says to me that they gave him enough time to recover. I know he didn't have the most productive game, but it was his literal first game as a rookie. Like, I'm not going to hold too much against him. He's the piece they needed. You have Mark Andrews as tight end. You have him as the alpha, and then you have Marquise Brown to go over top. That's all they need. Then when they get their running backs next year, that offense is going to be insane. Like, I don't know how Lamar Jackson does not push for the MVP. He could still do it this year, but
he's probably going to do it this year.
It's crazy that he could improve, and he has improved, and he always does improve each and every year. Now he gets better weapons on his offense. It sucks. I think they just lost they did just lose a big piece of their offensive line, but didn't they? Then there was an injury just the other night.
Yeah, Ronnie Stanley. Done for the year.
So that hurts, but that hurts Freeman and Bell and people that you're probably not going to start anyway other than this week, which some people I have to do that in a couple leagues. I'm starting Le'Veon Bell and Scott Fishbowl, which I hate saying out loud, but it's got to be said. I think that
one out for your Scott Fishbowl team this week, Zach.
Thanks, bud. But I feel like he's going to come around. I feel like he opens up a lot more for Brown this year, and Bateman really starts showing his importance to the offense towards the end of this year and early in the next year. He's an absolute buy for me in Dynasty. Love him. He's already the alpha in the offense. There's no point in – I just don't think it hurts Brown like some people I've seen on Twitter saying. They're like, oh, Bateman's coming in. Brown's done. I'm like, I don't know about that this year. I think it actually, in any other year, this is the year it helps Brown. Brown's still going to be the main wide receiver there, but Bateman's going to take a lot of the attention away from him because they need.
Yep.
Bateman's good. Bateman
100%.
needs that.
So here then, how does this then play into Mark Andrews?
It hurts him. But I think it hurts him more down the road. But this year might take a couple touchdowns here and there. But I think if anyone's targets are hurt, it's his. But I could be wrong. I want to hear Shane's opinion on this one, honestly.
I agree. I think it hurts Andrews, but I don't foresee it being such a big pain in the ass that it's a complete teardrop for Andrews or anything like that. I think if anything, it's going to be maybe 1 to 3 targets a game that he loses, which for him could end up meaning he gets 2 targets in a game, which we've seen TJ Hawkinson have a couple of those games this year, and it freaking sucks. But I also think that with the continued development of Lamar and the offense, I honestly could see Andrews, Bateman, and Brown getting probably alternating between the three of them, getting between 5 and 8 targets a game easy, with one of them maybe having a 10-target game here or there.
That makes sense. I'm cool with that.
So as of right now, Lamar Jackson is on pace for 550 pass attempts over a 17-game season, which would be, if he plays all 17 games, would then be 149 pass attempts more than he had during his MVP season, his sophomore or second year in the league. So that alone is going to open up more targets to go across the board. Hollywood is in his third year. He's eligible for an extension next year. Do we see, is this going to be a situation where we think that Hollywood actually gets re-signed, even though he looks at himself as a wide receiver one and maybe the Ravens don't? Which, again, I think if Brown leaves, it probably helps Bateman become more of a target hog in that sense, because Andrews already has the extension. So we know he's not going anywhere. So I guess my biggest thing is if you're looking at Hollywood Brown saying in 2 years he's not going to be a Raven, should I be looking to move him now? Thoughts on that, Shane?
Yes. If he's not a Raven, I do not want him, because I don't know if other teams believe in him like the Ravens do.
Zach?
I agree. If he's not a Raven, I don't want him, but I think they re-sign him for cheap.
You think he'll actually take a cheap deal to stay?
Cheaper than a wide receiver one deal. Not like if he keeps doing what he's doing, then he's going to want.
You do realize that his cousin is Antonio Brown, right? I mean, look, the attitude and the divaness runs in the family. So.
I can't put too much weight in that. They're both a little. I mean, he could be off like I don't know. I think he may realize that he's tiny as hell, and that his skill set matches up perfectly with what the Ravens want to do. And if he goes and tries to do that with another team, he's just not going to have that kind of luck. Where are you going to go? You could go to the Eagles maybe, but we're not going to use you the correct way. You could go to the
Green Bay.
Lions. The Lions aren't going to use you the correct way. You could go to Green Bay, but Davante Adams is going to take targets from you until he dies. So it doesn't matter.
That is true.
Adams is a free agent.
Adams may not be there too. Yeah,
I was going to say.
That's a good point.
He's leaving if Rodgers leaves.
Hey, Jordan Love needs somebody to throw to. Come on now.
He's leaving.
Yeah, Jordan Love can throw to trash cans.
Now, okay, so I'll paint this scenario. Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver. Denver has all that cap space. Denver signs Javonte Adams.
Oh, if they do that, then obviously they're not bringing Cortland Sutton back.
Yeah. And I would tank Judy's value probably even then.
Oh, yeah, that would crush Judy's value.
Yeah.
Well,
no, I think.
I mean, again, it plays into, we talk all the time about buy the talent, but situation still plays into it.
I completely
think
agree.
It crosses them both. If Adams goes there, Judy's done, Fant's done. They'll be wide receiver 2 and tight end 2s because Adams is just going to take so much. I'm working on an article right now. I told Josh about it, about target shares. And when players come in and they take certain target shares from people, I know people think the target shares are sticky, but from what I've been working on right now, it's not. It depends on what players are around you, and it's very environmental.
Look at Robert Tonyan this year.
Yeah, it's because Adams was hurt all last year. Adams was gone.
Well, he wasn't.
He was hurt.
No,
the year before he got hurt. Last year,
it was the year before.
It was the year before.
The year before, yeah.
No, Tonyan.
Tonyan only had 49 targets last year, but he had 11.
Yeah, but he had touchdowns out.
Good.
Yeah,
the wazoo.
Yeah, because Rodgers threw 40 of them last year.
Yeah, good old Rodgers that year.
And that's one of those instances where, yes, believe in the regression. But all right, so we know you both are huge Bateman guys. So if you, by chance, did not draft Rashad Bateman, first off, I'm sorry. Second, what is your buy high price right now for Rashad Bateman? We'll start with single QB and then we'll work to Superflex.
Did I put this on my notes?
I don't know.
Oh, yes, I did. buy high,
Yeah.
I'd give up a first for Bateman.
Yes, but how
And if
high
I had
first?
mid first.
Okay.
Mid first. I said late first and a veteran on my notes for the sheet. I'd go highest I would go is probably mid first and a veteran receiver.
I'm not high on 22's class next year, so I'll do pretty early. I'll go like second, third overall. I don't really care. I trust Rashad Bateman really hard, and I trust him way more than anybody next year. George Pickens, maybe.
Treylon Burks.
Garrett Wilson, Treylon Burks. I mean, there's a lot of talented people, but I like Rashad Bateman more than all of them, except for Pickens, maybe.
The only one that I would argue with you on that outside of Pickens is Treylon, because that dude is a Derrick Henry of a wide receiver. He's 6'3", 225, but runs a fucking 4.3.
He's a monster. I'm not arguing with that, but I'm still going with what I gotta go with Rashad. If he proves me right, if he flop, we have to see at the end of this year how high I'm willing to go. I'm not willing to really trade a first yet because right now 2022 draft picks are at their lowest value they could possibly be. You get a little.
I mean, they're only going to get higher the closer to the draft.
You get a little closer to the draft, then everyone's like, "Oh, I need a first right now," or "Oh, I need a first.
I got to have this guy.
My rebuilding team," and that's when I'm shooting.
You're going to fall in love with somebody based on combine, based on pro days. Happens every single year. So
every year, jumping every 100%. Time.
Well, the reason I ask is because Bateman, I feel like most people had him. I mean, some people had him 1, some people had him 2, some people had him as low as 5 in this wide receiver class. And most drafts that I was a part of, Superflex, he was going in the top part of the second. Most of my 1 QB drafts, I was getting him. I think I got him the latest in a 1 QB at like a 110 of a 10 team. So that's why I say like a buy high price. Like if you're saying a mid first, that tells me that you probably have him. If he was in this 2020 or 2022 class, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2, give or take.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's again kind of why I was asking. So, all right, I'm going to end on some final thoughts, and Shane, you put some of these in the notes. So I'll let you lead off. You're sitting here in the middle of the dynasty season. Maybe you're on the low end, 1-5, 0-6, 2-4. Really don't see it competing. Give me some guys that you want to absolutely just, if they're on your team, you're trying to get rid of them right now.
Yeah. Tyler Boyd, Melvin Gordon, Ryan Tannehill, Tyreek Hill.
First off, why Tyreek? Aside from you have a really good asset on a losing team, clearly, then
yeah. That's mainly why, because I think the return on Tyreek would just be stupid at this point. And could help you. It could almost take you from, let's say, 1-5 this year to maybe you finish whatever 500 this year, where maybe you only had a prospect of winning maybe another game or two. But then you're also built for next year. So I think the return on value would just be stupid high. He's different, clearly. But he's still short and small. He's only 5'10", I'm pretty sure. So just the longevity, and he's 27, I think. So the longevity of him continuing to play, continuing to take hits, even though you have to catch him to hit him first off. I won't say it worries me a ton, but it worries me enough to where I might be willing to sell high now.
Okay. And some people that you're looking to buy.
Oh, yeah, I like this list.
Oh, I like
Javonte Williams, which is why I was telling Zach to shush earlier. So I'm going to elaborate on that one, and then I'll get to the rest of my list. So Javonte Williams, to me, I said it all off season. Melvin Gordon was going to be a pain in the ass. They were going to be a 50-50 share for a lot longer than people wanted to admit. I thought that was going to start to split around week 6. So we're right in that time where I think Javonte is going to start taking over. I hope he starts to take over. Even if he doesn't, I think now people are probably frustrated that he hasn't taken over yet. So he is a huge buy low for me because the talent, he's a much, much better running back than Melvin Gordon is right now. And I want every share of him I can get in Dynasty. So Zach, that trade that you made, or you were talking about earlier, where it was Zach Moss, a first, a third, and Javonte.
Yeah, that was me.
Javonte and the first are probably my favorite out of that. But I like Moss this year.
Oh, Zach Moss was just depth purposes. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I told you to shush earlier. Sorry,
buddy.
But then the rest of my list is Chase Claypool, Clyde Edwards-Helaire, and Jamar Chase. And Jamar Chase, I know, is a buy high, but that dude can freaking play football. I want every share of him I can get.
I like it. Any final thoughts, Zach?
My sells are the top 3 tight ends. I know that's not going to be really popular, but I don't care. Kelsey, Kittle, and Waller. I'm trying to get rid of them all. Waller, because he still has the volume and he's still the number 1 target, but I don't think that's going to last. I know that everyone thinks that he's just going to be the Dalfa forever, but it's going to be a new coaching staff. You can talk shit all you want about Bryan Edwards, but he's eventually going to come up. He's one of my buy lows because he's cheap as hell. And Henry Ruggs, he's going to become more of a factor, even though he already
has.
He already has. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't like him at first, but he's already starting to come along. He's already starting to become more of a factor. I don't think Darren Waller is going to hold. Darren Waller's already kind of, if you think about it, disappointed a little bit this year.
Yeah.
It definitely hasn't been worth that price. Like, he had the one really big game in week 1.
If you take away week 1, is he still tight end 4 this year?
Not that great. It's not that great. And Kittle has dealt with injuries I don't think Kittle's injury prone at all. Deebo Samuel's not going away. You can't bottle that back up. You can't stop throwing the ball at him. It's just not going to happen. Absolutely not. It's not going to happen. And say Brandon Ayuk finally gets his shit together, or they think that he can finally catch something. Trey Lance he's good. I think he's gonna be fantastic, but how long is it gonna take him to develop into the passer that we want him to be? How long is he only gonna focus on one target?
I actually love what the 49ers are doing with Lance.
Well, he's hurt right now. I think he was gonna take over for a second there. I thought he was about
I was concerned about that, but I really wanted them to let Jimmy G take back over.
Yeah,
because we've seen it. Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady. Now, those are outliers, obviously. Those are 3 of the best quarterbacks we've probably ever seen.
I like how they work him
in. Yes, exactly. So I said it when the Colts were going after Andrew Luck. I've said it with pretty much every rookie quarterback this year, except for Trevor Lawrence. Sit them behind the veteran quarterback. Let them learn the speed of the NFL behind someone who's been there. And Jimmy G's done everything. He's been to a Super Bowl. He's made playoff runs. He's come back from injury. I talked about this with Lindsay OK on our podcast because she's a huge Jimmy G guy. But Jimmy G's the consummate professional who's learned behind Tom Brady himself and done everything that you need to do in the league and managed basically being hated by the San Francisco media because he hasn't won him a Super Bowl.
Right.
So now if you put someone like Lance, who's coming from a less developed program or a less competitive program in North Dakota State, and you let him learn behind somebody like that, his future is through the roof. And it's already there because of his ability to run and his arm talent. But it's his accuracy and his decision-making that we need to see improve. And if you let him learn behind Jimmy G, that's only going to give him time to improve that and not have to do it when it matters the most.
I mean, he develops and then he picks his 2 targets. It could be Kittle and Samuel, but Kittle was dominant when he was the 1. He may not be the 1 anymore. Samuel might push him for that. And I hate saying that. And Kittle is still great. Kittle's still fantastic, but he might not be worth the price that you're going to pay up. It's these young guns that I'm shooting for. Hawkinson, Goddard, Jazeki even. Jazeki, I know that sucks, but if he gets Watson, that's all I need. I need him. If he gets Watson, I'm cool with that. Kelsey, I want to get rid of because, yes, he's going to be good for a couple more years, maybe a few more years, but I would rather sell now while he has his utmost value. I can get whatever I like. I can get multiple firsts. I can get a first and a young gun. I can get a first. Like, I could probably get multiple firsts, and I could probably get Chase, and I could probably I bet you I'm going to shoot tonight.
You could name your price probably.
No, I'm gonna shoot it tonight on a couple minor.
I tried and it didn't work in the league I'm in.
And send Kelsey straight up for Jamar Chase and see if I get him. I'm gonna try it. If it doesn't work, I'll let you know. But we'll
be back in 2 weeks, so you'll let us know that.
I'll post it then.
All right, boys, that'll do it. Shane, once again, appreciate you hopping on with us. Tell everybody real quick where they can find you, your work, your podcast, etc.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter at FF Shane B. Podcast is Fantasy Nightcap. That's at Fantasy Nightcap. And then my written work will be at FF_Kollectiv. That's KOLLECTIV, or Going for Two.
I like it. Zach, you can find at FF Wu-Tang Forever. That's EVAH and the number 4. You can find me at the One Hudsonian on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all that good stuff. And Club Fantasy you can find on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course YouTube, where we're inching so close to 250 subscribers. And when we do that, I have a treasure trove of signed merchandise up here in my closet that I'm just itching to give stuff away. And you could win anything from a signed Mark Andrews helmet to a signed Calvin Ridley Falcons jersey to a signed Darren Waller Raiders jersey to a signed DeAndre Swift football. I've got all kinds of goodies, and I'm trying to give them away. So all you guys have to do, if you like our stuff, and hell, even if you don't, I don't care. Just hit subscribe. It takes 2 seconds and win something. It's that simple. Love to see it. You can find all of our written work, including Zach's upcoming articles, www.clubfantasyffl. My confidence plays for week 7, which is essentially a start-sit column. It will be dropping tomorrow morning. We have an array of different articles that we drop every week, including Kira's Cash Grabs, which is our most popular article every single week on our site, which will be dropping Saturday morning. You can also find our weekly Start Sit show. It comes on Saturday mornings at 11 a.m. Eastern. And this week we're going to have Nate and Jen, I believe it's Polvote, how you pronounce their last name. Yes, from IBT Media. They're going to be joining myself, Joe, and Ryan, my co-host from. Okay, cool. Yeah. Nate writes with FF
Nate Kollectiv. Writes for the Collective.
Very cool. Very cool.
For the Collective.
Yeah, find us all on there, and again, website www.clubfantasyffl. For Shane, for Zach, I'm Josh Hudson. We'll see you guys in 2 weeks when we'll have a whole brand new slew of Dynasty topics to touch on.
Hey, before you sign off, I do want to publicly thank you guys. Ryan Weiss from y'all's site actually donated, I believe it was $142 to take my wife over her goal this year for our fundraiser for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. So I would love to publicly thank you guys for that, because that was awesome. We ended up raising just over $6,000 for the Alzheimer's Association this year, and you guys helped push us over that.
That's
Love
awesome.
to see it. Love to see it. Ryan, biggest stand-up dude I know in this industry. Love him to death, and I'm so happy to not only call him a co-host, but call him a friend. With that, we bid you adieu. Enjoy tonight's game.